Okay, I'm working on this 2002 Mazda Tribute. Here today we're going to be replacing the belt, the serpentine belt, and the tensioner on here, and you can buy these usually in a kit at any part store. I believe it's around $50 and up. Okay, so this is what I got. Your tensioner. It's got like a washer that goes here. The bolt comes through. This is where your 3/8 bar will go into to move that tensioner to get your belt off. Here's a belt that I've got, and you're just going to need a couple of tools really. I've got a slim Harbor Freight little ratcheting wrench here, and I've got I'm using the 1/4 inch side. I've got a 10 millimeter. I'm using a serpentine belt tool, which I've got this at Harbor Freight too, and it's you really need something to get that leverage, so I will say you'll need these tools to be able to get in here. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so with the hood up, we're going to get down in here and at first get to this tensioner, and you can see it right there. We got to get our bar down in there, and we're going to have to pull this back. And it's now it may look fine, but when you get the new tensioner on there, it's going to take a lot more force to pull it back. You're going to be able to tell the difference. These just get wore out over time. So we're going to go ahead and get our tool over here and get set up and get this pulled back, and we'll just pop it off right up here at the power steering pump, and then just work it around. And I said there's lots of diagrams on this, but if you can't pull one up, just pay attention and take pictures of how you take it apart basically. Alright, so we've got it on down here. We're just going to start pulling this back and make sure to get it where it's firmly on there, not slipping off on you. Pop it off. Like I said, it's going to take a lot more to get this new tensioner. Now you see the way this loops around this tensioner. That's the way I always start out. Basically, I loop it around that first. Alright, so now I'm going to get back there and reach and finish getting it off of that alternator. Usually I can come from the reach around here or get around the back to get it. I'm going to have to climb up on something so I can reach back through the back side there though. Okay, so basically I just reached around back through here down into the back, and I popped it over that alternator, and I just pulled it right up through here, pulled the belt out. Okay, I want to try to get down here and show you what I'm going to be removing. The reason I'm using a slim ratchet, there's the 10 millimeter that I've got to get at. So I'm going to come right down through here with my little thin ratchet, and I'm only going to be able to get it so far, and I'm going to have to get it the rest of the way by hand, just using my fingers. And I may even have to get a little ratchet wrench because there's not a lot of clearance in between here. So if you absolutely can't get it by hand, you'll need to get a little ratchet wrench and finish backing it off. Alright, so I'm just going to go down here with my little slim ratchet here. We're going to start, it's going to be rather tight at first. We're just going to work it a little bit at a time. Said as long as your bolt is not stuck, you won't have a lot of trouble. I'm just basically turning it with the ratchet by hand here. And I can't get too carried away or I'm going to get my ratchet stuck here. Alright, I'm going to have to work this thing out of here. Okay, I had to switch directions on my little ratchet there. I actually went just a smidgen too much and about got it stuck. But here we are working the bolt. You can see this washer here. Don't let that thing fall. Alright, so we've got it loose. I'm going to bring it right up through here. Now be mindful of this nub that you see right there. That goes into that spot. If you can see right here, I don't know if you can see that from that angle. Okay, I got the tensioner laid up there. I just want to show you that spot here. We can get down in here. Right there is the nub that tensioner goes into, and that just keeps it from spinning. So that just goes when you put it back. That right there goes into that nub. So we got our belt off and everything. So we're just going to go ahead and work on getting the new tensioner in place. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to take this little washer, place that on there, and just put our bolt on there. And we're going to have this in here before we go down into the vehicle because there's very little clearance. We want to go ahead and have that on there. Okay, I'm getting ready to go back down in here. Got the nub pointed back to where it's going to go, and I'm just going to get that into place. And you'll know if it's not in there because it won't set down. But that just holds it still while we tighten it up. And this is not a very big bolt. I'm not going to be going by any torque spec. I'm just going to snug it down, and also not using Loctite, because if I ever have to remove this, I don't want to deal with all of that Loctite. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just start snugging it down. So this ratchet is going to help you out tremendously. I think I paid about $15 for this ratchet, but it has been really helpful in some tight places. And it also has the swivel, so you can get at stuff from different angles. So it's been a very handy ratchet. Said this is going into aluminum. It's not a very big bolt, so you don't want to get carried away with it. Alright, so we got the tensioner on. Now we need to work on our belt. I said the first thing that I like to do is I take and flip it this way, make a loop. And this is the part that's going to go around the back side of that tensioner there. And my old belt had really had it, by the way. It was oil soaked. So I'm going to get me a loop started. I'm going to get this wrapped down in here, and this is the very first thing. I come underneath that, and I just kind of turn it and basically roll it around, and that's like probably the only trickiest part of it. Now you may want to work from underneath. You may want to get it on, you may want to jack it up a little bit and work from underneath if you're having difficulty with this. But it's really, you can get it from up here completely. It's just not as easy. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to twist it back over, and I'm going to roll it around that crank there. And if I have trouble, I can get underneath. I know it came off no problem whatsoever, but it may be a little bit different going back on here. So give me just a second. Okay, actually I did have to reach under here. I haven't lifted the vehicle up though, and this is not hard to get to. Now I will say on mine, I don't have all this plastic shroud and stuff in the way, so it may be a little bit different on yours, but I did have to come down here. It was just too hard to get this looped. Now let's see, the first thing, I looped it around the tensioner, and then immediately after doing that, I come around the crank and looped it back onto this AC compressor. And then that other top part of that loop, we went that way around the alternator, which is really easy once I was down here. And the biggest thing is just keeping it from popping back off. Now I'm going to go back up top, and we're just going to get our tensioner bar on there. We'll get it back over the top of that power steering pump. Okay, so we got it set up. I said this is going to take quite a bit of pulling this time, because not only we got a new belt and a new tensioner. Now I'm going to go at this point, and we're going to double check and make sure that everything is on where it's supposed to be on here. I'm just going to look through the bottom. Okay, everything looks good. We'll go ahead and take this off. And the next thing is to test everything out, see how it sounds here. Okay, so it's sounding good. Now I do have a little bit of noise coming from the bearings on the AC compressor there, but everything else otherwise sounding good. Alright, so that's going to do it on replacing this serpentine belt and belt tensioner. Is really quite easy. I don't think I've spent more than 15-20 minutes tops on this. Just a few tools that you need. Other than that, it's a real simple job, and definitely sounds better than it did. So anyways, if you found the video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.